But the discos are saying that the weakest link is coming to them because initially it was the strongest link. But what they are saying now is that the government is violating the power purchase agreement.
I don't know the element of violation that you are talking, but you see,
with the deregulation of the mainstream system.
I'm not going ahead. I'm not. It's not a blame chain. It's not. I'm not blaming anybody, but I just want to tell you that this is where we have weak link because investment is not going through that sector. If you ask the discos, they will tell you because they don't cost reflective tariff, which is an issue. But the reality of the matter is that there's no investment going to the distribution as expected, and this is affecting the whole chain because you know the power business.
Why is investment not going into the distribution chain?
Investment is not going to the distribution chain because of so many factors. I think the way we did the
because the investors in the distribution find it very unattractive.
I think so, and also if you look at there are so many issues.
Does it make sense to say that the federal government has not been able to make that very attractive for investors to come in?
I think you see there are so many issues, and you know this government has inherited all those things. It's not that this government came and did all those things. There are issues with how we did the privatization, and that's what we are working now to see how we fix it. If you remember, there's federal government has approved about $72 billion to invest in the discourse, and you know this federal government has 40% shares in the discourse, so they are also supporting the discourse to be able to take to expand. So I think it's not issue to say let's blame the discourse for failure or let's blame this. Is the issue that we need to fix it and move forward. That's how it is.
But should the transmission arm be privatized?
You know, my mandate is not to come and privatize transmission. You know, there's an agency who has the mandate for privatization, which is Bureau for Public Enterprise. But what I can assure you is that whether it is in private hand or in public hand, what is required is the leadership and the commitment of government to do the right thing. If you look at models all over the world, there are transmission that are in government hand, there are transmission that are in public hand, and all of them are doing well. Look at Indian Grid, for example. Indian Grid can go to London Stock Exchange and raise money, and go to New York Stock Exchange and raise money. It's a public agency.
Are we not behind time, still sticking to the grid system? Because this is a time when the world is embracing the off-grid, the hybrid system.
You know, for the power chain to move, actually, you have to have mix of all the models, because there are places that can easily be fed through off-grid. There are places that has to go through grid.
But a lot of people believe that a lot of problems comes from the national grid system, because recent reports from the recent inspection tour by a team of the federal government confirms that in Kebbi, the power supply has improved tremendously. In Jigawa, it has also improved tremendously. But that's not the same situation in a densely populated area like Lagos.
As I told you, Lagos also has no problem because we have generation in Lagos. The problem is the investment in distribution company in Lagos. It has nothing to do with the national grid. The national grid, as I told you, we are working tirelessly Saturday, Sunday, every day to reposition the national, and that is the mandate that has been given to me by government to come and do and reposition the grid, and that's what we're doing. And as God will have it, staff has given us maximum support, so we're working hard to stabilize the grid. But as I told you, we need to go to the next level and see how we can also work with the discourse to see how we can solve some of the bottleneck on that side so that Nigerians will get adequate and reliable power supply. Don't forget that we are also collaborating with the government of Lagos under their scheme of powering and power and light of Lagos, and also power and light of Ogun State. So all these are coming up, and I believe that very soon you will see changes that will improve significantly the supply of power in Lagos and those places.
We understand that the African Development Bank is planning investment in critical areas of transmission projects in Nigeria. Could you bring us up to speed on this? We understand that $410 billion
Yeah, that's
$410 million.
That $410 million is part of that our transmission rehabilitation and expansion program, which I told you has attracted $1.57 billion so far. This project that is supported by the African Development Bank will actually reduce transmission bottleneck in 3 key locations. One of them is the line between Alauji, Uweri, and Onitsha. You know, there was this contract that was given before under the NIPP project to one of the indigenous companies to build a line from Alauji to Onitsha, Ihiala, Newi, and to Alauji, Uweri, Ihiala, Newi, and Onitsha. That project, we don't think it will be realized. So this money that is coming from the
why don't you think it will be realized?
We have done all the discussion with the contractor and everything. We don't think it will be realized. So we have to come up with options.
What went wrong in the award of the contract?
Yeah, that project is a NIPP project. So I cannot give you all the details of what went wrong with that project. But we don't see the feasibility of that project coming up. And we cannot leave that site like that, because if you look at, there are several generations that are coming up between Alauji and Onitsha. Generation like Century Power, they are coming up, and we have several of those power plants that are in Afam and in Alauji. They are not being evacuated properly because of weakness of that line, so we have to solve the problem.
Let me take you back on this, because that's where a lot of analysts are complaining, and it's generating a lot of heated controversy. You talked about your mandate, which is not to privatize the transmission arm, which is to concentrate on fixing the arm. But let's look at people have alleged so much corruption in the process of transmission, in the process of privatization of many of these power assets. Do you think that has contributed to not getting beyond where we are today?
Me, I cannot call it corruption. I can call it, maybe we have not done it right, but I cannot say corruption, because you have to prove corruption before you can make that kind of allegation. But it's normal for people, for government to make mistakes. What is important, I think, how do we move forward from where we are now? Because if we continue to dwell of how this thing was done in the past, I don't know how we're going to move forward. We need to move forward.
But do you think that has affected your operation so far in moving beyond where you should for today?
You know, my mandate actually I started last year. That was in February. And if there is no issue, I wouldn't have come. So I wouldn't have come. So I came to work to see how we can move forward, and we are moving forward. I don't think it is proper for us to be going back to start discussing how the privatization is done, who get what and what went wrong. I think we need to move forward. And if you look at even the distribution that we are saying that they are the weakest link, I think they have made some movement. If you look at when this government come in, the capacity of distribution is not what it is now. They have also ramped up some capacity. So if the government come in with the support, and I think that if the right things are done by the regulator and everybody, we believe that everybody will pick up. Will pick up. And
now let's come back to the power sector roadmap of this administration. The federal government came up with a mandate to achieve uninterrupted power supply, incremental power supply, and steady power supply. Those 3 areas. Where are we in the power sector reform plan, in the roadmap? What stage are we now?
If you look at what you even said, that there are certain places where you acknowledge that there is some improvement.
No, the reports.
Yeah,
the reports coming from the federal government.
There's an improvement. No, but I think you can go and verify. You can verify. I think it's good you verify. Because it's good. I think it's good you verify, because you can discover that there is significant improvement that have been achieved.
Because we also have to look at the sustainability of that improvement.
Yeah,
that's another aspect.
Of course, I agree with you. But if you look at when we achieved frequency control of 49.5 and 50.5, when did we achieve it? We achieved it in June last year. And it has been sustained steadily. In fact, when we achieved, people said maybe this will be implemented in this few months.
I think the anxiety
has been steady.
the recent reports that about 6 major transmission facilities collapsed recently. So people are wondering how sustainable some of this power supply that some areas are being reported to be enjoying right now.
I don't know the 6 major collapse that you are talking about. Maybe you are referring to what happened in January.
Yeah.
But what happened in January clearly is the problem we have of the pipeline between Lagos and Benin. And that pipeline, government also have a good plan on building a second pipeline, which you are aware, which will also be completed very soon. So that kind of problem may not happen again immediately that new pipeline is fixed. So the problem is that where you have problem and there is no plan to solve that problem, that is where it's dangerous. But where you have a case where you have an issue and that issue is being resolved, I don't think that should be taken as a big problem.